one.
What up?
What's up, Mike?
How you doing, dude?
Oh, I'm so glad you picked your energy up.
Yeah, man. I'm see, my energy's all over the place. It's Juneteenth Day.
It is Juneteenth. Did you say Juneteenth Day?
That's what I said. I shouldn't say that, huh? See, there's so much I don't know. That is a perfect example of how I feel caught out here being black with no plan for Juneteenth.
Black with no plan. That's another great T-shirt. I mean, we just got to get on these things. I'm telling you.
How you feeling?
Me, all kinds of ways. Obviously, you know, it's kind of incredible and strange that there's so much emphasis on Juneteenth. You know,
suddenly,
man, I was on my computer last night. I don't remember what I was doing. I went to IMDb to look somebody up, and everyone was black. Like, I went to Amazon, and it was like, here's why Juneteenth is important. And I was like,
this is amazing.
What's happening around here? Do I count?
Yeah. Dude. Everybody
that matters or something.
It's a weird feeling to go. I mean, you know, we've both been on the earth a number of years now, and I can't ever remember. You know, the people who cared about Juneteenth the most in my life were like my elementary school teachers. You know, in adulthood, I haven't seen this much credence put on it, and I love it. But I do feel a little out of sorts about it. But we decided to have a party.
Yes, that's what's going on.
So that's why there's a streamer behind me. This is very important.
It's just one streamer.
There's one streamer, and I have a goblet.
Ooh, it's a very small goblet.
It's the goblet I could afford. Okay. I didn't get a Juneteenth pay bump. I did decide just a few moments ago though that I'm gonna start charging extra every Juneteenth. From yeah. For what? I feel like just because I feel like I should. I feel like I don't know.
Wait, who extra?
Whoever, anybody. I did a live performance this morning, and I'm looking back at it now and be like, man, I could have
charged extra.
I should have.
This is supposed to be my day off.
Something
free today. So you're gonna have to pay me extra for this labor. That's hilarious. You know, you grew up in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And did you grow up with Juneteenth? Did people around you talk about it? Stuff like that? Did you celebrate? No,
nobody talked about it. Literally, in my life, it was just, it was teachers who would remind us of it. And this is when I went to school in a black neighborhood, because later I ended up going to school in a white neighborhood.
Quote unquote white neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, when I was going to school in the neighborhood closer to where I lived, those teachers made it, they went out of their way to remind us about Juneteenth because it wasn't in our history books. So we'd be talking about slavery. We'd be talking about, you know, Reconstruction, and everything would go so fast, and then they would insert that. But I don't remember anyone in my life or my family ever really celebrating it or talking about it really at all.
Well, I mean, but I think that's part of what's weird about it, you
True.
know, is that, and that's what's interesting about this moment is that, I mean, I've spent my life chasing my history, you know what I mean? And I mean that literally and figuratively. I mean, I literally had to track down my own biological father, you know, and found out that I had all these other siblings who, you know, luckily I'm getting to know, you know, so there's that. But then on the other side, like, this is not stuff that was prioritized in public education, you know, like there's a very sanitized version of quote, it's Black History Month, you know, and it's the shortest one. That's why leap year is extra black. If you ever wondered why you always feel extra black that year, because you have one extra day of history. But, you know, so it's interesting that there are people who aren't black, I guess you could say, that are really starting to pay attention to this history, right?
Yeah.
And so it's and it's all out there, you know, people are talking about this left and right. So it's like, you know, every corporation is talking about Juneteenth and stuff like that. So
it's real strange.
It is very strange. I mean, I knew about it because I was mostly raised by Southerners, and I knew. So
that your family did celebrate it or talk about it?
Talked about it, but didn't celebrate it. You know, just the fact of Juneteenth. You know, because I was raised by my great grandparents when I was really, really young. My great grandparents, right? And they came from Oklahoma, you know, and further east, you know, in the South, you know, but like my great grandmother picked cotton, you know, her sister, like they were working that land. Their parents were probably slaves, you know, so it's like they had that feeling, you know, of Juneteenth with them. They took it to the West,
Right.
but you know, because of all the different weird disconnects in our personal family history, which I think it's the same as your people's history. If you have the if you don't value knowing what your specific family has been through, then you know it's harder to find what people who look like you know, in the entire population have been through. But again, I look at this like it was all on purpose in a way. You know, that's historically that's the precedent to disconnect Black people from their roots. You know, to literally our existence becomes cognitive dissonance. That was always the plan, literally the plan, you know. So it's interesting to kind of have all this thing go pew and just kind of the balloon pop, even though it's like a really slow and we don't know what's going to happen yet. We don't know like how all this is going to be taken forward.
Yeah, and it feels like it's on us to take it forward, right? It feels like it's on us as people who have been paying attention, who understand at least to some degree what the legacy and the history means and how it affects us today. It seems like it's on us to imagine how to celebrate a thing like Juneteenth. But I got no idea, man. I got no clue. We're partying right now. I don't know how.
Neither do I. You know, I mean, Up From Slavery, right? Booker T. Washington. He talks about remembering when freedom happened. He was there. Some soldier came because, you know, they didn't tell everybody they were free for a little bit. And you know, which is in the history of Juneteenth. And then he said he remembers the soldier coming and being like, "You're all free." And he said, and there was this big cheer. And then suddenly it was like, okay, so what's next? Right. You know, it was like, and that becomes Reconstruction, which we also don't get taught about, right?
Right.
So, but I think that there's something, you know, right now with this reckoning with Juneteenth, to me, I'm feeling that, okay, well, what's next? But we get to decide, right? So
we get to try to decide. We nobody but us should decide is what I'm trying to say. I don't want Amazon and IBM deciding how we celebrate Juneteenth.
I saw a tweet that said, how long until Juneteenth gets the Cinco de Mayo treatment, where it becomes like a
drinking holiday?
Yes, but not for the people who it's about.
Right.
You know, like it's Cinco de Mayo is about a specific thing, but it's not, you know, the people who celebrate it don't even know about that. They're
so college students
sombrero and have a margarita.
College students would dress up like Black Panthers and go get drunk on the strip. Like that's
woof. Might be some you know, if blackface starts, there's gonna be some hands are gonna get thrown.
See, boundaries, people, boundaries.
But we're partying, we're having a celebration today, especially because it's the end of our first week of call and response. It
is.
My goodness, we did it.
we done something.
So I need to relax. I need to fucking relax.
Yeah,
with some friends. You have great guests today. We have Roxane Gay. We have Travon Free. We have Roy Wood Jr. But right now, Mike, what should we do? Should we like raise a glass or something like that to Juneteenth?
That sounds like a really good idea. I have a nice goblet to raise.
Yeah, it's a small goblet, goblet.
It's a nice, yes.
And I got some homemade iced coffee. So
I'm sipping kombucha, by the way. It's nothing illicit, you know.
Oh, you fuck with the booch?
I do. It's so tasty and fun.
I always knew you were kind of boochy. Hey, it's not a celebration unless Baron Vaughn makes a pun. You know what I'm talking about.
We have arrived then. Here we are.
Okay, well, I guess let's raise a glass and also let's pour one out for those who couldn't be here with us.
That's real talk.
All right, well, I think it's time to bring out our first guest. What you think about that, Mike?
I'm always excited to talk to our guests, especially the first one every time.
Because they're the first. Okay, I get you. We are so happy and honored to have this guest with us. You may be very familiar with her books, many different books, Bad Feminist, Hunger, Difficult Women. She has a new book called Aiti. So please welcome everybody to the stage, Roxane Gay.
Woohoo! I have to fight clapping every time we bring somebody on.
Do you really?
I do. I'm so trained.
So trained to bring somebody on. Are you a big clapper, Roxanne? Or do you like to save your hands?
It depends. I'm not a promiscuous clapper. I only clap when someone deserves it. So
That's
I'm not going
real.
to clap for your existence. No.
When was the
real.
last time you really clapped?
The last time I clapped, I went to the taping of Douglas, Hannah Gadsby's Douglas, and
Oh, yes.
I clapped.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, I'm happy to have you here. Well, Roxanne, we wanted to have you on to talk about a lot of different things. Obviously, this is our Juneteenth show. It
Happy
is a celebration.
Juneteenth Day.
If you can't tell by my hat.
But
But
my streamer, I have a single streamer.
he has one streamer. I'm into self-adornment myself.
Very festive. Very festive.
That's what I was going for.
So, you know, obviously right now we're having a historical reckoning. I might even call it, because, you know, obviously to people like us, these things, these relationships that have been in this country for as long as this country has existed aren't new. But suddenly there's almost like a proliferation of information and people who are putting forward all these different ideas. I wanted to ask you about the value of that and what do you think is happening right now?
You know, I have mixed feelings. On the one hand, I'm deeply encouraged by everything that's happening. And unlike some of the previous police murders that we've seen, there does seem to be a measurable response this time.
Mm-hmm.
But it is frustrating as a Black person to see that people are suddenly becoming awake to racism that has been around for centuries. It's just, it's really surreal. And for the first time ever, people beyond the Black community, and especially the Southern Black community, are taking Juneteenth seriously and acting like they've discovered something amazing. But Juneteenth has been celebrated since 1865. Where have you been? It's just surreal. But you know, progress, you have to recognize progress where it happens. And so things are happening. It is a reckoning, but is it going to be sustained? I'm not sure. White people are already declaring fatigue with caring about Black people.
Oh, gosh. Of course. I mean, to go from 0 to 60 this quick.
It's exhausting because, I mean, pity the white person.
But you have mentioned that, you know, this moment that we're all in seemed to start with the murder of George Floyd. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, what do you think it is about this particular incident that made it resonate with so many more people than all of the other incidents that have come before it?
You know, I'm not sure, because there have been previous incidents where an unarmed person was murdered. Tamir Rice was 12 years old. Like, why were we not in the streets for Tamir Rice? But I do think that this one, there was video and it was sustained. It took, 8 minutes and 46 seconds is a really long time, especially when you hear him begging for his life and begging for his mother, and knowing that his mother was dead. And so that, like, there's a poignancy there and a pain there that I think anyone can recognize. Like, some of the previous instances, you know, even with poor Mike Brown, people were like, he's no angel,
right?
Which,
oh yeah,
18, so calm down. But this time it just didn't matter. It was so brutal and it was so callous, and the cop stared at the camera. He knew he was being taped and he was being asked to stop. He was being begged to stop, and he didn't. So once in a while, something so indisputable or indisputable happens, and here we are.
Wow, yeah, you said it. Now I wanted to ask also about, because you've written this book, Aiti, and also you've written on the comic book series World of Wakonda, and in both of those, you know, diaspora and things that are related kind of come up in both of those works, right? So can you talk about what I wanted to say can you talk about like what the African diaspora was? But we all know. But I guess I want to talk about how it is that it's been inserted. You know, these themes have been inserted into the World of Wakanda and examined, and also what brought you to write the book, Aiti.
I wrote Aiti. It was one of the first books I wrote, and it was recently re-released. It was first published in 2011 on a micro press, and I wrote it because my parents are Haitian, and I'm Haitian American. I'm a first generation American, and that has shaped everything about who I am. And so I wanted to write a book about the diaspora experience and what it's like to have a homeland and to live away from it, and what it's like to be the children of immigrants in a country that does not particularly care for immigrants, especially Black immigrants. People love different kinds of immigrants, but Black immigrants, nobody ever talks about them, and they are not well respected as they should be. And so I wanted to try and explore what it means to live within all of that, because it can be very complicated. But I'm also very proud to be who I am and where I come from. And I wanted to also share that pride. I love being Haitian. It's awesome. And so that's where that book came from. And then when World of Wakonda came around, that was just exciting. I've never written a comic before I wrote Wakanda, and Marvel gave me pretty free reign. And so I wanted to write a story about Black lesbians who loved each other. And of course, there may be complications, but neither of them died. And it's a low bar, but it's rare in pop culture that the lesbian character doesn't die, or that she doesn't fall in love with a straight girl. And I was not having that. But I was also interested in writing about a representation of Blackness. What would it mean to be Black in a world that was not colonized, in a country that was not colonized? What does uncolonized Blackness look like? And I think that's what Wakanda represents. And it's a fantasy, but it's a very intoxicating fantasy, because so much of what we know about the Black experience throughout the world is shaped by colonization. And here is Wakanda, that has been hidden from the world and that has thrived because of that.
I wanted to speak to you a little bit more about, I guess, obviously Black Panther has I hate to say the phrase, captured the imagination of the world, but it's the most mainstream depiction of what is called Afrofuturism that I have ever seen. Obviously I've, been familiar with that before. And I guess I want to talk to you about not only Afrofuturism, but, you were talking about a world that hasn't been colonized, which Afrofuturism is an extension of that idea. And obviously, like, people are talking about decolonizing your mind and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to hear from you, like, what all those things mean when they're put together.
I think it's just a question of demonstrating the extent of the Black imagination and what can happen in Black imagination. And I think what's great about World of Wakanda and Black Panther, the film, is that it does mainstream things that have been happening outside of the mainstream for decades now. And I do think that it is expanding the imaginations of young Black people who are now able to imagine a future that they may not previously have been able to imagine. Because when you think about the constraints of this reality, you realize that there is a brick wall that most of us are facing when it comes to racism. And what Afrofuturism does is create a world where that wall does not exist. And it's so helpful and so useful. And it's actually not only for young people, but people like me. I'm always inspired when I engage with Afrofuturism. Octavia Butler and her incredible novels definitely paved the way for a lot of us. And, I do hope that, like celebrities who say that they're feminists, I have no problem with that. And I think it's just a gateway. And then you have to do the reading beyond that feminist, that public feminist. And I hope that people will do the reading beyond seeing Black Panther and really engage with some of the best of Afrofuturist thinking, because there's a lot out there now, and it's accessible and it's intelligent and it's creative and it's awesome.
Would you like to name check anybody? Give a shout out here and there?
I am terrible at names, but I would like to recommend N.K. Jemisin.
Yes.
Who is an award-winning science fiction writer, and she is one of the most brilliant women in the game today, and one of the most brilliant people in the game today. And her imagination, and especially her trilogies, are just amazing. I can't say enough about her work. And Tananarive is also another great Black Afrofuturist, and I highly recommend her novels as well.
Thanks for that. So we're here on Juneteenth Day, having our, celebrations as best we can.
That's what mine looks like. It's
good. It's good. It's a robot celebration. It's great.
Quite a celebration there, Baron.
I can't get up. I have to sit down.
As a child of immigrants, specifically, not having that Black American history and in your family to draw onto, what is your feeling, just from the immigrant perspective, and also just as a person who's thoughtful and very aware of history, what is your relationship to Juneteenth Day?
I think Juneteenth is an amazing holiday for what it represents. And I am the child of immigrants, but when I'm walking down the street, people are like, what kind of Black are you?
Yeah.
Black, in general, white people don't care about distinctions. But then they're going to talk about how they're like 1/4 Scottish. So it's not something that I've actively celebrated, but it's certainly a holiday I've always been aware of. And, every time Juneteenth rolls around, I just think, man, not that long ago, we were all enslaved. And even though it seems like it was a long time ago, it actually wasn't. And that's why I think that day is useful as a reminder. It'll be interesting to see what people do this year, though, because there are a lot of Johnny-come-latelys this year.
There are. and I find myself being of two minds on it. I do think it's important to celebrate because it's important to remind ourselves what we have come through, especially because we live in a society that tries to deny it in so many ways and not give credence to it and not hold anybody accountable for that. But on the other hand, I have these thoughts like, well, it's not like it is a celebration of us triumphing over something. It's not like our Alamo. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
And I don't know. In that, I wonder if there is something else that we can celebrate. It's almost in the spirit of Afrofuturism, trying to imagine a holiday for us that doesn't have anything to do with slavery.
Yeah, that's a great question or a great observation. And so I too am of several minds of this, because I think anytime we get to celebrate, it's important. And unfortunately, so much of what we celebrate is that we're not enslaved. Mm-hmm. And you have to wonder, at what point will we move beyond that? And I've written about this quite a bit, especially in the context of film and television, and how Hollywood seems to prioritize slave narratives and the struggle narratives over just letting us be free and tell stories that are not connected to it. But at the same time, we're still seeing the repercussions of slavery in our everyday lives. And so it's well and good to intellectualize like, oh, this again. But at the same time, yes, this again, because police behave in the way that slave masters behaved. And when you look at incarceration rates and when you look at policies like stop and frisk in New York City and other major metropolitan areas, you have to recognize that the tendrils of slavery have reached well into this century.
Tendrils, great word. Reminded me of Octavia Butler too. Just thinking about what's that called, Dawn. That's really fantastic. Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this concept, because obviously there's all these protests going on, and the news is very concerned about looters. Is very concerned about destruction of property. This is a narrative that is tried and true, to Black life is worth less than, you know, this property or this whatever the heck. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about this concept of looting, especially when we're talking about African diaspora, since the continent, you could say, was looted from. Your thoughts?
You know, the media has done such a disservice over the past, I would say, how long has Trump been in office? 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? So I'm thinking before he was elected. They consistently control the discourse with their bullshit framing. And we're seeing that once again with this emphasis and, quite frankly, this obsession with looting and people crying about Target. Like, it's Target. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's truly going to be okay. And, you know, I know many small business owners, and as a writer, I'm technically a small business owner. And so I take no pleasure in seeing, you know, a small business owner have to rebuild something that they've spent their entire lives working for. But revolution is never peaceful, and revolution is never sedate and polite. And what we're trying to do is tell this country that you have to take your foot off our necks. And if people think that that's going to happen by all of us holding hands and singing Kumbaya, they truly have not read a book and are unaware of their history. And what's really unfortunate is that people love to trot out really selective quotes from Martin Luther King, as if I've seen white people explain to Martin Luther King's son that,
yes,
you know, his father would not appreciate what's going on right now. And that's how you know we have really gone afield from any sort of sanity in this situation. And it's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. And so I think it's really important for us, especially if you have any sort of public platform, to push back on the looting narrative, because it is a fraction of what's actually happening. And even though the news has moved on, protests continue. I live in Los Angeles, and every single day we get from this organization in Los Angeles, they share all of the actions happening, not only in Los Angeles, the city, but Los Angeles County. And there are a minimum of 5 protests happening every day in the city. And they're happening all over the country and beyond. And so I think it's really important to focus on how these protests are still happening, how they're necessary, how they're largely peaceful, and that it's interlopers who are doing most of the looting, and it's the police who are turning peaceful protests into violent chemical warfare events.
Yeah, the police are the ones who are rioting.
They really are. They're rioting, and if you don't get their way, they walk off the job.
Yes. The sick out, is that what happened in Atlanta?
Something
like that?
Flu,
the sick out, and then in Buffalo, when one of their brethren got in trouble for pushing a 75-year-old man, they walked out. They quit their jobs. Which, like, if you are fine with your pal pushing a 75-year-old person, then you're also trash and good riddance.
It's a sickness.
Truth.
It really is. And I think it was Cornel West that said that a corrupt system cannot reform itself. And that is certainly the case with the police. We're beyond reform at this point. Defund the police, abolish it, and start over with something new.
Yeah, where our ideas of policing and crime are very crooked, so we have to reimagine all of that stuff.
I'm not even the most radical person at all. I'm always accused of being a centrist, which is fair. But even I'm like, fuck it. Let's just watch it all.
And a good place to look, Afrofuturist thinkers.
And if people would read more, they would see that writers and thinkers have been exploring what alternative forms of crime and punishment could look like for a long time.
Yesterday you tweeted, very simply, you tweeted, "Too many newses today." And that just resonated with me so much. It's just a statement on our times and trying to stay aware of anything, of everything, I should say. And you being a person who I feel like people look to have something insightful, something sharp to say about everything that's going on, almost as it happens. I imagine that's got to be pretty fucking exhausting. And I wonder, you know, How do you navigate that? How do you maintain your energy to continue to do that?
That's a good question. Fortunately, I'm at a place in my career where I actually don't have to respond immediately. Early in my career, and most young writers, editors will say, I need this thing in 2 hours after something happens, and you don't have time to really think or be thoughtful. And still, that's the quality of the writing that we have in the world today, that writers are able to rise to that occasion. And so now I feel the pressure to respond, but I don't surrender to it.
Mm.
You don't need a half-assed opinion from me. You need a well thought out opinion. And so I am taking more time, and I'm an expert on many things, but I am not an expert on everything. And there are so many topics where it's better for me to listen and learn than it is to speak. And I'm just trying to figure out when to speak and when to listen.
Mm.
And I wish more people would do that, because there is all sorts of trash thinking happening because people feel like, oh, something happened. I remember one time during one of the sort of upticks in the crisis in Syria, someone said, well, do you have anything to say about it? No, I'm actually not an expert on Syria. International relations is not my forte. And I happened to be reading a book about Syria at the time. And, I shared the title of the book that I was reading, and that was it, because there are so many people who are actually qualified to talk about that. And right now, there are actual activists who are out there doing the work, who are more qualified to speak to this moment, and who put their bodies on the lines. And I think it's really important that we look to them, and not look necessarily to our faves. And Dave Chappelle, he's problematic, but in his recent comedy show, he talked about how Don Lemon had called him out for not responding to this moment. And he said, do you really give a damn what celebrities have to say right now? And that's a really good point. And I wish more people would have that humility and recognize that we don't all have to speak right now, but we do all have to listen.
Right.
I remember an old bit of Chappelle's about when 9/11 happened, and how everybody was, it was just a whole, a month of people sharing their feelings, and people whose feelings you were like, really? He said something about, he was listening to the radio, and they're like, oh man, we got Ja Rule coming in, and he's like, what? What? Why would you? Who is over there being like, I have to know what Ja thinks right now? Ja bless, Ja bless.
Like, nobody cares what Ja's thinking. And so I'm just trying to keep up and stay informed without wanting to die, because the news is also horrible and people are so horrible, and it's overwhelming. It is.
Well,
luxury to say that.
Let me ask you this: what are the sources of news that you like to look at, that you go to?
Yes, I read the New York Times and the Washington Post pretty much every day. And I follow Twitter. I do get a lot of news from Twitter. And of course, with Twitter, you have to be able to discern the truth from absolute nonsense. And so I am working on not believing everything I read the first time I read it, and then having some knee-jerk reaction, doing something stupid that I'm going to later regret. But I do get a lot of news from Twitter.
A little critical thinking goes a long way. It goes a long way.
It does. And every time I don't use my critical thinking faculties, I just think, oh, Roxanne, Jesus Christ, you're 45, get it together.
Coincidentally, this exact same thing I say to myself. I use your name and your age as well.
Why not? Why not? It's just, it's like a little uniform. Feel free to wear it.
Can I ask one more question, and then we will let you we will let you go.
We'll allow you to be in your home.
Yeah, to go live your own life. First of all, again, we really appreciate you being here. I guess it's just like, for me, I am seeing more and more that our education system is very complicit in a lot of things that are wrong with this country. I think that, I saw an article the other day about schools in, I want to say it was like Finland or something like that, where they are literally teaching critical thinking. They are teaching their students to be able to discern what is and isn't real news, to make sure that they check the sources and stuff like that. It seems like it's a no-brainer, but things like that don't really get put into our school systems. In fact, I mean, luckily I had a black woman as a history teacher when I was in middle school. And that like literally is one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because she sort of illuminated to me, don't believe everything you see in this textbook, because these are the people who decided what could and could not go in here. And so I guess I wanted to ask you about, because in the theme of Juneteenth, myself, I have had a cursory knowledge of what has happened to black people for a lot of my life, but I have had to, on my own, chase all of this knowledge, all of the history, all of the facts to figure out what the heck is going on, because nobody ever thought it was valuable to teach these things in school, except for, of course, a lot of kumbaya, hand-holding sort of, platitudes that happened in the shortest month of the year. So I guess I was curious about your thoughts on what should be included maybe in the education system, what kind of things we need to tell our children so that way they can deal with the world that they're actually in.
I think the truth should be included in our
okay, truth should be included. Thank you very much, Roxanne.
Be included in age appropriate ways, of course, but nobody, when we were enslaved, nobody sat around asking parents how they felt about their 5-year-old seeing them being disciplined by the overseer.
Wow.
And so I think it's weird that we think that we have to shelter today's children from the realities of what slavery was, what segregation was, what Jim Crow was. And so I do think that the truth is incredibly important, because I don't think people truly understand the horror of our history.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, it is media literacy. That's a great discipline, to put out there and to educate people about. And I think a lot of people need to look more into that, the agendas of the people who write the history, and who, put forward our textbooks and stuff. I remember there was a video a couple years ago, black mother in Texas, I want to say, her son came home from school and she was looking at his textbook, and they had erased the word slave and replaced it with helper. And she was like, what is this? Look at all the people who co-signed this. These are elected. These are people who are elected, So that's the kind of thing we need to be very aware of and fight against.
Absolutely.
Roxane Gay, thank you so much for being with us. You are a joy and a light.
So much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
we really appreciate your work. Oh, yes. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to also echo thank you for being here, and just thank you for being brilliant and insightful and having so much good shit to say all the time. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Check out Roxanne's new old book, Aiti. Get it from a black bookstore, please.
My heart's clapping.
Yes, exactly. I think that she deserves that clap. But right now we are going to transition a little bit. But any feelings on what Roxanne said, Mike? I mean, there's a lot of different kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think, to me, one of the most important things is just this talk that, we seem to be having with a lot of our guests about just reimagining things.
Yes.
A world, a people that haven't been colonized and what that looks like, what kind of holidays those are. I feel like that's one of the things that gets me so excited coming away from these conversations, is thinking about what things could be.
Yeah, I have some insane ideas about that, and I'm afraid to say them out loud. There's a part of me that's like,
it's
what?
Okay. Nobody's listening.
Maybe this is an Afrofuturist comic book. These ideas I'm having about where I think things should go,
nice,
or what I think is going to happen. But I'll tell you that it has to do with a beautiful union between black people, right, and indigenous people / Mexicans who are indigenous people in the first place, right?
That does not sound very controversial, Ben.
No, maybe not necessarily. But I didn't go to the rest of it, Mike. I said the least controversial parts of it.
That worked then.
The rest of it has to do with my fascination with the singularity in AI, so since we're talking about Afrofuturism, it's all those things put together, but we'll come back to that some other day, because what I want to do right now, what I want to do right now, Mike?
I bet I do.
Do you know what I want to do right now, Mike?
I think I do.
Do you want to know what I want to do right now, Mike?
No, now I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to bring out our next guest, actually, is what I want to do. This next person coming to the stage, the cyber stage here, is a fantastic, not only a fantastic stand-up comedian, but Emmy Award winning writer. He has written on both The Daily Show and Full Frontal, and he is here with us to just kind of hang out for a little bit, join in the party. Please welcome everybody to Call and Response, Travon Free.
What up? What up?
What's up? Happening, bro?
So
happy
Travon,
Juneteenth, fellas.
Exactly.
Happy
Happy Juneteenth. Trayvon, your last name is Free. What do you think about Juneteenth?
Well, as the family who founded the holiday, I think it's imperative that I speak for all of us when I say we cannot be happier.
Now, Trayvon, you and I think we have some similarities in our upbringing, because you were grandparented too, were you not?
Yes.
So it was like your mom and your grandma, right?
Yeah.
Exact same for me, right?
Same. Well, close here too.
Yeah,
grandparented for sure.
We're all grandparented. We all grew up in similar-ish neighborhoods. You grew up in Compton, right, Trayvon?
Right.
So again, Compton is not the South, So did you grow up with the sense of Juneteenth? Did you grow up with like these ideas?
I mean, only in the sense that like you have that one black elementary school teacher who's determined to tell you everything black they can within the legal rights of a black elementary school.
Trying to start the revolution in 3rd grade. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, like sending you home talking about stuff your mama don't want to talk about. So, you get a light version of it in Compton, at least when I was growing up. But we were aware, like we did they would mention Juneteenth, and then they would do the Kwanzaa ceremony at the end of the year, and you would dabble in all the peripheral black holidays in that way.
Yeah.
But I also went to a really black daycare center when I was really young, through elementary school year. So they were black as like, can I say that?
Yeah, please say it loud.
All the cussing. Say it loud.
Like we would do full on Black History slave plays. Like,
oh damn,
it was that black. So in that regard, that was where we got probably most of our black education.
Do you remember the name of that place at all?
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was called Daisy Development Child Care Center.
Oh, that does not imply that it is black as fuck.
It's a very innocuous name.
Very, very, very soft name for a black as fuck daycare center.
It's like reverse COINTELPRO. I like that. We should just have radical institutions with hippie names.
Yes, exactly. And then when people walk in and it looks like Nancy Pelosi's kente cloth, except it's actually black people. No. It's like black people who should be wearing that stuff, and they're like, "Oh,
greet you at the door."
Yeah, we have a picture of that, don't we? Have a picture of this. I want to say famous moment in.
Oh my god! Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
I called them the Junta Kente, which you guys hate, but Twitter liked ish.
They look like a Divine Nine step team, like a alumni chapters, like they was in the middle of a routine,
the drum line's gonna come through and go. Yes, exactly. They're gonna stomp the yard.
They're going through the final stages of getting their Wakanda passport. And you got to do the final kneel before T'Challa.
See, Wakanda's on the mind. Wakanda's on the mind. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, guys? I mean, it was, obviously Twitter kind of blew up with it, but
you talking about with the Congress people in the Kente and all of that? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be some kind of statement of unity, right? Is that what that is? It's like, we wore your colors, like basically they're like, we're part of the black gang. We wore your gang.
Like when two soccer players trade jerseys at the end of the match. It's very symbolic. They don't mean nothing.
It's like, sorry, I kicked your shins.
I mean, and honestly, because I grew up, we all grew up in the 80s and 90s, and kente cloth, I think, resonated a little bit more culturally. Then we had groups like X-Clan and Jungle Brothers, and that was a little bit more like representative of a particular force in the culture at the time. But now, like, who resonates with Kente, like I understand that like, you know, it's important and what it points to, but you know, they might as well have been wearing Air Force Ones or something, like, you know what I mean? Like they gotta pick something people actually wear. Like,
honestly, I would have respected it more.
I think so. It would have made a better visual, I think, for sure.
See, that's a big thing. Y'all, because you grew up in Compton, you grew up at the south side of Chicago. And, you know, so this is like, you guys grew up in bigger cities, I guess, you know, just like places that had a little bit more history. Vegas is weird, you know, like I never felt a sense of a black community in Vegas, even though I was in a black neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's just like, first of all, it's too damn hot. You know, like it's really hard to organize if you know you start cooking the moment you walk outside, even though it's like it's 120 damn degrees. I guess I'm just jealous is what I'm trying to say of some of the. I actually had some friends that moved to my neighborhood from Compton when I was a kid, and then they moved back because they were like, we can't take this. Like it's like
I'll deal with the drive-bys. You can keep the heat.
Well, at least there's a sense of community. You know what I mean? Like people knew each other, and I think that's where they came from. You know, they were like, we knew our neighbors. Like in here, like you're upstairs, down. It's like apartment complexes in this different kind of way. Anyway, I was just trying to say that I'm jealous that y'all had, you know, at least a little sense of community when you were growing up. I was just inside.
Trayvon
definitely knew all our neighbors.
Oh yeah, I didn't. But you know, I lived too close to the projects, man. We used to try to not talk to people as much as possible. You know, it was a little different. Trayvon, I want to ask you though, growing up here, when there was, you know, it recalls the '92 rebellion and how big and culturally impactful that was. You're still in LA now, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about these protests that have been taking place recently, and the fact that like they haven't really been in the hood where historically LA protests have been, and they've been in more affluent neighborhoods? Like, what do you think about that, having grown up here?
I mean, I think it's interesting to see that people now have determined to not protest and riot in Black neighborhoods, but also there's still a very well-defined border between just how far into white neighborhoods you can go. Because like I live like in Beverly Hills, West Hollywood area, and you can see every protest I've been to, police make a very clear barricade between Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. They are not letting you anywhere near this neighborhood. And they kind of build a perimeter around, like when people got into Rodeo Drive, they was like, oh, we can't let this shit go down. Like they made a point to shut that down real quick. When honestly, I wouldn't have mind seeing people, you know, hit them where it hurts.
Take a little further, yeah.
Yeah. But because I mean, that's how you actually get people's attention. Like it's to me, I find it fascinating that America is a country that will go to another country, and in order to get them to understand why they need democracy and all these changes, they blow up everything. They don't understand people in their own country who are setting fires and breaking things are doing the exact same thing. They're using the destruction of property to make the same point, which is, hey, look, if you don't hear me when I say it, you'll feel me when I do it.
Wow.
And so it's to me, I just find that so uniquely American in its irony that they don't make that connection. Like, go blow up a country so that they can believe what you believe, but you don't get it at home.
Well, we're the only country that has military bases all over the world.
All over the world.
We've turned ourselves into the world police. You know what I mean? And is it who are we protecting really? You know what I mean? And it makes sense that the police are an extension of that. I even saw a tweet that I don't remember who exactly said it, but it was like the police are essentially border patrol in this country. You know,
that was Jon Stewart the other day. He was like, police are basically border patrol, and they patrol the border between Black and poor America and white and rich America. And I mean, you couldn't have come up with a better analogy. It's exactly what it's turned into, and the effects of that are finally, you're starting to see them, and you're starting to see that wall kind of corrode and it bleed over a little bit, like that World War Z, I think it was, when all the zombies are climbing up the wall.
Oh, they swarm.
Yeah, on top of each other, and like at some point, you just enough is enough.
Yeah, and I hope that I hope that's where we are. Did
Right.
you have anything else to ask, Mike?
Well, speaking of tweets, Travon he had told us before he got on that he was crafting his Juneteenth statement. And I went and snuck and looked at it a little bit, and God dog, he killed it, man.
What? I didn't see it.
He wrote like a whole essay, and it was brilliant.
Oh,
and it moved my cold dark heart, and I'm intimidated that he did it all while he was sitting here.
Right before he got on. We don't know how long, he was crafting that tweet.
That's true.
How long were you crafting that? Is it a multi?
Oh man, it's a thread out the ass, man. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay, all right. You wanted to say something about Juneteenth, huh?
It took a few minutes. I was debating on whether I wanted to post anything long form, but
what was the debate about?
Well, because I just feel like there's so much pressure for people in our position, especially now. Everybody wants to hear from you. Everybody wants you to say something. Everybody wants you to do something. And that in of itself is exhausting,
Yeah.
Then you now have to perform for the new woke people. You have to now show them something that is above and beyond just wanting to exist, And so there are definitely days where I feel like, oh, I got something to say and I'm gonna say it. But there are days like today where they're specifically looking for it, and I'm just like, do I feel like doing it? But since I halfway did it on Instagram, I was like, I might as well do it on Twitter.
I'm glad you did. It's actually amazing and legit. I found it moving.
Oh man,
I feel like everybody should go check it out.
I'm gonna have to go check it out. And but for now, thank you for coming here and letting us, I guess, check you out. we're gonna check you out now of the grocery store we call this show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, thanks for spending some time with us, man.
Everybody, that's Travon Free. He is at Travon TRAVON on the twits. We will be right back. We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we are going to be talking to our good friend and Southerner, Roy Wood Jr. Welcome back to Call and Response. Yes, I did intentionally say welcome back.
I don't think you have to explain that to anybody by now. They know you.
Yeah. I don't know who knows me, Mike. That's part of my thing. You know what I'm saying? So I do know that we know each other.
That's true.
I know that we know a lot of the people that we've had on the show. And if we don't know them, we like everything that they have to say, which is why we asked them to be here. And this next guest that's coming up right now is both of those things combined. He's someone we know and we like, and we also always love what he has to say. I think he's one of, I wouldn't say it's just me that thinks this. I think he's one of the best working comedians out there today, and I think that also when he is gone, which I hope is a very long way away, people are going to be like, oh yeah, he's one of the greats. I think this dude is incredible. I'm happy to have him. Please welcome Roy Wood Jr. Everybody. What's up, Roy?
I know he did.
Like those terrible 80s sitcoms where oh, I didn't see you there.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
How are you?
I was just playing some football. You're here too.
I love
Good
those
to see
things.
you. Good to see you, man. How y'all feeling?
Man, we're doing all right, man. Trying to figure out how to celebrate Juneteenth. We don't know what we're doing, man. I got one streamer and a goblet, and that's all I got to offer, man.
And I'm self-adorned. That's my bit today, is that, instead of decorating the place, I decorated me.
I have a question about Juneteenth.
Yeah, go ahead, Roy.
So I was out today. I'm in Birmingham, by the way, at my mama's house. And I have to say I'm at my mama's house because I feel like this background with this bed, everyone would just assume I'm dating a 70-year-old woman.
Yeah, I can see that.
That lamp is definitely, that's a civil rights lamp. Let's just be real about what's happening behind me in the background right now.
Yes.
But I had to run a quick errand this morning.
Okay.
Socially distanced, of course. But white dude told me Happy Juneteenth. And without thinking, I said, same to you.
Oh.
And I don't know if...
Yeah, no.
This isn't Christmas where it's for all of us.
No,
This is for us. you know what? Like I almost feel like I've never said Happy Hanukkah to a Jewish friend. I've seen it, and it's not out of disrespect. It was just I never knew. Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say good luck with that thing you do that I don't rock with because I was raised in a different part of the country? But way to go! Like I don't know what to do. Is a white person out of line if they wish a black person Happy Juneteenth, or should you wish us a Happy Juneteenth?
I feel like they should, but I don't think you should wish it back. I think it's more like a happy birthday situation where when it's your birthday, that's for you. You don't say happy birthday back to people. That'd be weird.
I think you gotta have a follow-up phrase.
Okay.
You gotta say Happy Juneteenth. As long as you don't go Happy Juneteenth, you're welcome. That's messed up.
Oh, that's foul. Yeah.
But if you go Happy Juneteenth, I'm sorry. You know, it's all, it depends what they follow it up with. I need to know the intention behind this.
That I think that's fair, but I think it's something we'll work through as we get through the years of collectively celebrating Juneteenth as a country more openly. I think we'll figure out the phrasing and the wording. You know what I'm most excited for with Juneteenth? I'm excited for like in 5 years when like white people get in a comfortable place and we have all those Juneteenth white savior movies. Can't wait.
Oh no.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Our guest earlier, Roxane Gay, was talking a little bit about struggle narratives, you know, and just kind of like slave movies and all that stuff and like how much people love that. And it's funny because I feel like what's been happening while the world is what it is right now is when I'm turning on the TV, you know, to Netflix and chill or whatever, now I'm seeing like, you know, Hulu and Netflix and all the places have like Black stories, and all of the movies are it's just a list of different places we suffered. You know what I mean? Every single movie is that.
And it's dope because they're able to do it while using the algorithm to justify it, where it doesn't say Black movies, it just says suggestions for Roy. And I'm like, you flip through, you know, you swipe through, like, there's a lot of Black people in this row of movies right here. Or they trick you and they put the Black person in the thumbnail.
That is the one. That is the one. There's one Black person in the whole movie for one scene. You show me the thumbnail as a picture of that dude, and I'm like, all right, okay, you know I'm Black now.
That's how they rotate the thumbnails every February. They just take the Black scene and put that on the thumbnail just for the month of February. That's how the big streaming services fulfill they civic duty.
Yeah, man, but it's cool. It's cool to, you know, see everything that's going on around the holiday. I was down in Montgomery a couple days ago. I got to shout out Michelle Browder and all of the people on the ground doing good work down in Montgomery and building awareness. And they're doing a big thing with Juneteenth down on Dexter Avenue. You know, Birmingham, you know, we always do what we do. Montgomery, though, because you really forget with Alabama, the demographics and how Birmingham is 75% Black. I came up in an all Black school system. Had plenty of Black, like there was a thread on Twitter about a week ago, like at what grade were you in when you got your first Black teacher? Kindergarten. That's what I got mine. So to go to Montgomery, where they just got their first Black mayor, Stephen Reed. Birmingham's had a Black mayor every year since 1978. So they're two totally different cities going through the same struggle, but Montgomery is definitely on the precipice of something that's totally different. And so, you know, it's good to see Black folks out there being proud and wearing their masks.
Go ahead, Mike.
This is a Juneteenth celebration. We spoke with we spoke with Travon Free earlier. He was born and raised in LA. I was born and raised in Chicago. Baron was born and raised in Las Vegas. And we didn't have
raised, born somewhere else. Don't matter.
Oh, right, my fault. But we all had, we didn't have the deepest experience with Juneteenth. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, growing up in the South, what was it like? Did you hear about it a lot? Were the celebrations pretty prevalent? What were they like?
No, there were no celebrations, not in Birmingham. I didn't really hear about it for real till college. And even then I went to a Black college. I went to Florida A&M. And so he was like, Juneteenth. And the joke, and this is a joke, and I can't remember if I put this in my act or not, but the running joke was that it was called Juneteenth because we didn't know which day it was, the Freedom Day. So it was like 13th, 14th, Juneteenth. And like that was kind of the running joke.
Yeah.
That Juneteenth was kind of like this week-long Is it, do we celebrate it? Almost like Cinco de Mayo, where you acknowledge it, but you ain't really in it unless you're Latino. So I never saw any of that. I mean, and I grew up, there was enough Black history mentioned. Like I was talking with Kamal Bell about this a while back, and how in the South they substitute Black curriculum with field trips. So they put you in a bus, rather than teach you about it, they'll put you on a bus and they'll take you down to Montgomery to see Dr. King's church, or go over to Atlanta to see his house, and they'll take you to Memphis so you can see where he got shot. And then you come back to the classroom and you learn Greek mythology.
Right.
So,
oh, wow.
So it's a situation where they just never wanted to go that deep into it, because it was already uncomfortable enough to talk about Black people that were great in the 60s, let alone talking about, hey, remember that slavery thing we did to you? Yeah, let's dig in. So no, Juneteenth was never part of the curriculum.
Wow, fascinating. It's
like even at a Black college, like even at FAMU, we didn't.
Yeah.
Well, granted, it's a summer thing and classes were out, but it was never anything that I really felt was like properly observed. And and I went to a Black college where we sang the national anthem, and then we sang the Black national anthem.
Oh, I missed the Black national anthem so much. We gotta bring that back, man. Yeah. We gotta bring back the Black national anthem.
I love that song. I would say we should sing it, but we're all out of sync, so it wouldn't. We would not be lifting any voice.
Before we bring back the Black national anthem, we have to decide how many verses we're doing. Because here's the thing. I know the whole first verse, because that's what we did at a Black college. Right. But then it'd be Black folks that want to flex on you.
Oh yeah.
Go to the second verse.
Like
Amanda Seals did that in her HBO special. I be knowing she had the whole crowd rocking with "Lift Every Voice and Sing." But Amanda, she is definitely for the culture. She started flowing into that second verse. I was like, wait a minute now, let me Google. Hold on.
Yeah, no, I think only the first verse is canon, man. Everything else, you could be making up words. Wouldn't nobody know it?
Well, I remember in church.
Trust me, some of these Black folks would know, and they'd start staring at you.
And that's where I saw it. That's where I saw it in church. I would see it was like we would stand up and sing it, right? And then not everyone would sit down. There would be the oldest people would still stand up, and they would look at each other and do the last verse. We're all like, okay. So, but we can't say anything because they're all 70. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's let them sing the whole song right now.
Do your thing. Sing the whole thing. Go ahead and sing it.
I did want to ask you real quick as well, because, you're, like you said, you're in a very Black city, and you grew up going to a Black school system, went to HBCU. And I saw this article because I was reading up on what's going down in Birmingham. And I saw this article where we were talking about the local BLM leader. I think it was Kara McClune or something like that. I'm sorry if I messed up her name.
You got it.
Texted the mayor, Randall Woodfin, and I was like, what? They're texting each other? That's the only city I've heard about where the leader of BLM and the mayor are on a texting each other kind of relationship. Our first episode, we had Melina Abdullah, who is one of the leaders of BLM in LA, and her and the mayor I don't think they get along. I don't think they had that kind of a relationship. What's that like? What's that say about Birmingham?
First off, just to set the picture for the viewers, Mayor Randall Woodfin is under the age of 40. So he's a young brother. Shout out to Morehouse. I got to give Morehouse a shout out because that's where he went to school. And he's of the people. So, he's out there in these streets, and he's not a person that hides. And if you Google, do yourself a favor when you get a chance and Google the Birmingham protest, the George Floyd protest from earlier this month. It was on a Sunday night where a lot of Birmingham residents were demanding that the Confederate monument that's here in the city be taken down. If you look at those pictures and that mosh pit of protesters that are literally chipping away at this damn monument with whatever they had, keys, rocks, whatever you got, just start pummeling this rock. Mayor Woodfin is right there in the thick of it, and he's talking and communicating with the people, and he was the one who basically told everybody that night, hey, I know this thing been up here, I know y'all tired of it, give me 48 hours and I'll get it down. And I'll be damned if he did. He got that thing down in under 24. And so he's the type of person that has always been for the people and what's right. He definitely is not the type of mayor to go, let's go break some windows and tear up some stores. He's like, hey, everybody chill. There's a bureaucratic way to do this. If you just trust me, I can get this done. And he did. And, you know, that was one of the first Confederate monuments to come down as the conversation started expanding beyond police reform into all of these other pockets of racism that Black folks have just said, you know what? Not only are we tired of the way the police treat us, we tired of this, take it all down. And what started happening after that in city to city, just in the state of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Mobile, Montgomery, Huntsville are either in talks or have already started taking down their Confederate monuments as well. And that all started on a Sunday night in Birmingham with Mayor Woodford. So, you know, I have to give all the props to him. I have to give all the props to comedian Jermaine Johnson.
I was going to say,
who's brother here that's been on the front lines of all of this since all of this stuff started. And, you know, that's the thing that I love and I hate about having to live in New York is that, you know, Birmingham is, you know, literally in my Twitter profile, in my bio, it says, bury me in Alabama. Like, this is what I love. But because I'm away, I'm not always able to be on the ground with people like Jermaine and Kara. So it's dope to come home and see that other folks are holding it down. And I know that my job and my responsibility to the city is something totally different. Like if you think of it like a beehive, right? Where in a beehive, every bee has a different responsibility. And, you know, I used to be, you know, one of the bees that was inside the hive. My job was to tend to the kids, the larvae, or try to build the comb, tend to the queen. But now I know my job, because I've left the city, is to go out and get the pollen and try to create opportunities and bring that pollen of opportunity back to the hive so that the people who live here can build with it. So it's weird. Like this quarantine kind of showed me that, oh, I'm in a different role now in the city. It's still my battle, but I have a different responsibility, you know, a different position in the army now.
Well, you're not just living in New York. You're also having to move around in the entertainment industry where, you know, it's not necessarily built to. It's not easy to move with a sense of community. So I want to, you know, get a reflection from you, get your experience of what it's been like to have what you feel like is a sense of responsibility that's not just about you, but in an industry that's so selfish. Like, how's it been navigating that?
Well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it, man? Half the people that want to do this job or want to get into entertainment in any capacity, be it behind or in front of the camera, especially in the South, they ain't got no guidance. They don't have anyone that's around, especially in Alabama, and everybody's thrown Alabama away. We just a bunch of Jeff Sessions and racism and no teeth jokes. And I get it. We've earned those jokes. But it's a lot of good people here that can do great things and have done great things. And so, you know, we're one of those states where I feel like it's got to be fixed from the inside. So the only people that are going to look out for Alabama are people from Alabama. And that's why I have such a sense of responsibility of trying to do things that bring projects back to the state and that will speak to the youngins that are here. If you see me on TV doing it and you know I'm from the hood,
right?
What's stopping you? So if you take that same model and you apply it to being a Black in the entertainment industry, it's the same thing. You can hope that there's reform and, you know, you see all the shit right now. I don't know if I can cuss, but you see all the stuff going on.
Hard.
That's more.
You see all this bullshit going on. And I don't want to call it bullshit yet, but time will tell whether or not the industry is truly committed to diversity and inclusion as they claim to be with all of their timely internet, IG posts and all of that stuff that's just riding the wave right now. But in the interim, it's my responsibility to try to find someone that I can work with and try and pull up or try to include. Because if I don't know who will. I don't know who's going to necessarily help that person. You know, when I shot my Comedy Central pilot here last year, the one about me being a probation officer or whatever. So when we shot that, you know, the one thing I got to give Comedy Central credit for, man, I said, yo, I would love to find a Black woman director that can do her thing. And I know if we start right there with Millicent Shelton at the head of the
I
thing.
love Millicent Shelton. She's dope.
I ain't got to say nothing else to Millicent Shelton. Millicent Shelton already know the business, so she already know the way she's going to try and staff the show to make sure that it's bringing opportunities. And then on top of that, for them to allow me to shoot the show in Birmingham. Like, you don't shoot network sitcoms outside of LA, New York, Vancouver, Chicago, Atlanta. Like, those are the spots where most television is made in North America. So you let me pull up to Birmingham, then you let me include some of the locals, then you let me hire a bunch of people from the crib who want to get in the industry but can't because there isn't enough shit that comes here.
Yeah.
Like, that's my job, is to go bring the pollen back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because now, if you live here or you're even close to Birmingham, then there's an opportunity. And if the shoot goes smooth, then the next person considering, where should I shoot my show? You'll hear that Birmingham was dope as hell, and you'll come bring your ass down here with some cameras and make sure that these young kids know that they can be something. So I have to, I'm sorry to get all serious about it. Like,
that's fantastic, man.
It's just about making sure that people coming up after me are better off. Like, that's the name of the game. And if I can send my son to college somewhere and all of this shit, then cool too.
That's my personal mission, man. That's so damn beautiful, Roy. You know,
I don't know if he should go to college. I think he should just watch YouTube videos. Like, you ever watch YouTube for like 8 hours and you learn the shit?
You learn a lot of shit.
That's what my son does.
It's crazy. Like, there's everything up there. Of course, there's a lot of dangerous shit up there too. It's not that hard to look out for, but there's a lot of knowledge up there, definitely. I wanted to ask you, this is kind of a three-pronged question, and it ties into what you were just talking about. Because I'm of the mind that in post-pandemic America, location is going to matter way less. There's a mass migration happening right now. People are moving from where they were because a lot of people move to, well, specifically places like LA and New York because they want to be in the industry. But if the point of being in LA and New York, which is to physically be there, to meet people and to perform, isn't there, then it doesn't matter that you're there. I'm trying to tell everybody, move somewhere else and create there. You know, find your community there. And I think that that's what you're doing is beautiful. And it's in my heart to do it as well. And so in that sense, you know, in the spirit of comedy, you know, you had written a Vulture article back in March that was about kind of the comedy industry slowing down. It was back before we knew what was coming, but you know, you correctly called, I think, that comedians just need to settle down.
Prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst.
Prepare
Look,
for the worst.
It's
figure something else out, because whatever you used to do ain't coming back no time soon, Coach.
Exactly. So this is my three-pronged comedy question. One, how do you know, what are some of the ideas that you had written in that article that you still stand true, and what do you think about where comedy is going to go, you know, especially in terms of like people doing Zoom shows and stuff like that? And two, you know, obviously you're on the Daily Show as well, you know, who has it has a black host, you know, and not even an American host, like a global black person is the host. You know, you are on it.
Global black. That's a new demo.
He's a global black. I just mean that, like, you know, and I see that in his stand-up too. He's been an observer of America from outside, you know, and it's kind of crazy that people like Trevor and John Oliver, who aren't from here because they don't have the baggage maybe sometimes that we have, that they can kind of see it a little clearer. And the people who like ourselves that have been like, I think this is what's happening. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And we're like, oh, thank God. So you and Dulce, you know, is another homie. You're on the show with the black host. So you have a bunch of specific, you know, you have a bunch of black people on that show. So do you think
that in that mix? Yeah.
Yes, Jabuki as well, the homie Jabuki. And do you think that helped the Daily Show be ready, I guess you could say, for what's happening in America? And then third, Chappelle. So let's those are my three questions.
That's a whole separate question. You can't roll Chappelle into a burrito about the state of comedy. And
yes, you can, because he did a special that was outside.
Oh, outside. Well, you gotta put that question with the first question. That's like 1A. I
was gonna get to it, you know.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a long ass question.
Your question. It's a good question. It's a good question.
No.
I didn't even let you finish the shit. I just started attacking your third question.
It's a long ass question. It's a long ass question.
Has Chappelle established the new model for stand-up?
Well, what do you think about his model? And do you, I mean, I think stand-up will come back when we figure some shit out. But in the meantime, we have to, people are trying to fill the space. That was Chappelle's attempt. Obviously people are doing Zoom shows. So I'm just curious about your take about what does and doesn't work right now.
I think that if you have someone willing to watch you do comedy in a particular style that's comfortable to you, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of Zoom comedy. I'm not a fan of performing into a black hole and not knowing what's going on. And I know that there's been some shows where they have like the audience gridded out. There's like 100 people in a Zoom and you can hear them laughing and shit like that. But it feels weird to me. My comedy, there's something performative about it. Mm-hmm. I'm not demonstrative. I'm not Tommy Davidson, but there are subtleties to the body language with regards to my performance that I think I cheapen myself if I'm just trying to do comedy like this right now, sitting down, or if I stand up, it doesn't feel comfortable to me. Mm-hmm. To the Vulture article, I still stand by everything that I said, and Chappelle's performance proves my point. Mm. The bigger the venue that a comedian used to play, the smaller the venue he will probably return to for now. So if you're a younger comic and you're used to playing 100-seater or something like that, or a 200-seat comedy club, and you're an opener, there may not be space for you coming back. There definitely ain't gonna be money, even if there is space. But that goes back to what you said originally, which is about finding your own lane, finding your own craft. I think that clubs are going to have to bring in acts that sell seats. You have comedy clubs on 20 and 30-year leases right now. These clubs, all these comedy clubs and these shopping plazas, those are 20-year leases. Ain't nobody finna let them out them shits. So you got a 400-seater that you can't put 400 in. You can only put 200 in, which means you got to make $400 worth of money off of $200 worth of people. So you got to double the ticket cost. There's probably only 30 comedians, I would argue, 20 maybe 30 comedians that could fill 250 seats at $50 a ticket. Now, the thing about Chappelle, of everything that's going, what you see with Chappelle and what he was doing, those tickets were also $75. So how many comedians are you going to go see in a park for $75? Not many. So you also have to look at unemployment. It's going to be more broke people out there. You're going to have to look at the fact that there's going to be so many people hurting. Are they even going to be ready to laugh? And I really feel like if you're a stand-up comedian and you travel for a living, there is going to be less work for you to go get. So figure out a way to create what's going on there where you are. Because the comedy clubs, the longer COVID lasts, the less likely, the more comedy clubs are going to fall off, because your landlord ain't going to lower the rent on that $20K. You're sitting in some nice ass plaza next to a Dave and Buster's. They're not going to cheapen your rent. Your landlord don't care. So the comedy club cannot fill the calendar. There are not 50 comedians that people would go see in a comedy club for $50 a ticket, which is the low end price point for the comedy club to remain profitable. And a comedy club ticket is traditionally anywhere from $12 to $35. So when you just look at the economics of that, for me, and that's myself included. Like when I look at markets, there's a handful of cities where I've gone in and always sold out and always done well. I bet you I could play those cities again. But the cities where you're trying to build your draw, right. It's like, if you think about comedy like music, think about your favorite rapper. Your favorite rapper used to come through your city and he would play the little nightclub, whatever the little nigga spot is, where the hip hop station promotes or whatever. Y'all make sure to see Knucklebuck with special opening act DJ Dreezy on the one. And you go see him at the Hole in the Wall nightclub where somebody gets shot twice a year. And then the next time you see him, he's headlining that spot. Then the next time you see him, he comes back, maybe he's playing a little amphitheater, and then he's playing the bigger arena. So comedy is the same way. So if you're the comedian that's playing the smaller spots, you got to figure out something in the short term. I don't think that this will be permanent. People have died in mass amounts before, and entertainment still remained. So yes, there will still be, that's a terrible thing to say, but it's true. People have died in the quarters of millions. People have died in the millions, and entertainment is still here. Wherever there is pain, there's going to be a need for laughter. So where that laughter is going to come from in this pain, I think remains to be seen. So I think Chappelle, what he's doing is amazing, but you know, the outdoor model, they're doing that in New York now. Comics are doing shows on stoops. People are adapting. Burt Kreischer's doing a drive-in show tour. There's Michael Che performed on the back of a pickup truck in Long Island City or some shit I saw on his IG. So there's going to be adaptation. Now, I don't know how any of this works in the winter, because I'm not standing outside doing no 45 minutes worth of jokes in a 20-degree wind chill. You know, comedy might just be a summer sport like baseball. So, you know, I don't know.
You know, I really I love hearing this, because you can tell that you're a real student of the game, right? And you're a student of economics, and you really have a practical sense for how all of this works. And it's marvelous to hear you say it, because like, I'm in the music business. One thing you rarely ever hear somebody successful in the music business do is give a bunch of game out for free. So I want to just tell you how much I appreciate you giving out all that game and sharing that wisdom. And I'm wondering, like,
oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I wonder what it is about you that makes you want to share that wisdom and not be selfish about it.
Well, I don't feel like I'm telling anybody how to build a boat. I'm just here to tell you the storm coming. You got to figure out what boat is going to be best for you. You know, Goody Mob said this a long time ago. They say everybody is somebody because of somebody else. And so that's always stuck with me. And there's been a lot of mile markers in my career where people helped me. And I don't even think they knew that they were helping me, but they helped me. And I can never pay those people back. They're either dead or they're so high up the comedy totem pole that they're never going to need a favor from me. So the only thing I can do is take that benevolence and pass it back. You know, like like some comic asked me to mentor them. I'm like, I don't know how to do that shit, but you know what? This and this is coming, and write jokes that feel like this, and you'll probably be okay. And then he hit me with that like 4 or 5 years later. Man, that was the best advice. All right, congratulations, you know, I guess. But I just think that, you know, there were cats that helped me. You know, I've told this story a million times, but when I first moved to Los Angeles, Aisha Tyler responded to a disrespectfully long Facebook message I sent her about being a black actor at a white acting school and what it's like to be a black person moving through white Hollywood. And motherfucker replied and gave me some real game. And to this day, ain't nothing I can do for Aisha Tyler right now. Like it was just her out the kindness of her heart, you know, helping me. You know, and I could say the same, you know, for Trevor Noah. You know, like that's another situation where, you know, Neil Brennan slides Trevor Noah my name. Like, yo, you should look at this dude. Trevor gave me a look. Trevor gave me a job. And that's on a network that I had already auditioned for that show and not gotten it a couple of years prior. So you don't get to even audition for, like, when you audition and don't get the role, they don't invite you back.
Right.
So that's unheard of, man. And so, you know, The Daily Show, you know, and I don't know if this was Trevor's intention when he took it over, but by us being the most diverse show in late night, you know, and that's not a knock on other shows, it's just statistical fact. If we're counting heads, we also have more correspondents and more on-air talent than other.
No need to qualify.
But in being the most diverse show in late night, it gives us the ability to explore all of these topics without it being something that becomes voyeuristic or necessarily from a white POV. And I think that's important, because when you look at the way that we digest information, sometimes the chef that's cooking up the meal that they're trying to feed you is important to a lot of folks. Because you want to know that the person exploring this topic has a level of understanding underneath the surface of it all, because you'll trust them to ask better questions. So, you know, that's something I don't take lightly. That's a responsibility. Like, I've been pitching some black ass stories, and they get greenlit. And that's like, we're doing one, we're working on a story right now about the citizens arrest law and everything that happened in Brunswick, Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery. And we're trying to talk to, you know, Congress people that are trying to change that law. And you find jokes within the policy, not necessarily on the actual incident, but to be able to even explore that, that's all Trevor. That's Trevor not being scared of realizing that where there's pain, there might be a laugh, but if nothing else, there's presentations of solutions, which could also, you know, give people some soothing. in these times.
Absolutely. Holy crap. I mean, we kind of gone long, but I don't care. Because I love Roy and I love your mission, you know, and I agree with you, man. Like the whole point of New Negroes, the whole point of it was to, you know, share the wealth, I guess. You know, one of my qualities that I love that my wife hates is that I have an unending capacity for other people's bullshit. So like, I like being able to talk to other comics about comics have written me message I've never met, and I'll reply because like you said, I have had that happen to me, and it was valuable.
Sometimes
a comic that didn't know me shit wrote me back, and it meant everything.
Dude, real talk. Sometimes I get something out of it too. You send me some stupid joke to look at. It's not funny, but it might spark something in me to do something totally different. Like, and sometimes, a lot of the time, when I'm talking to younger comics, I'm just giving advice that I wish I'd gotten, and then it reminds me to stay true to those ideals as I still grow myself. I'm not done, so you know, it's good talking to the youngins. They give me a lot of advice. The old heads and the people who could give me advice, they ain't got time to talk to me. Most of the people you look up to are too busy doing the shit that you respect them for. So you ain't got time to talk to them.
How are you planning on spending the rest of your Juneteenth, Roy?
You know what, man? I think I'm gonna do one more Zoom, and then I'm gonna hide from my child under my mama's bed right there. Right bed.
You're gonna be on Adulting, right, with Jordan Carlos and Michelle?
Yeah, man. Yeah, run over there and see what they talking about.
Everybody, check that out. I think Chris Red's on that show too.
Yeah.
Roy, thank you very much for being with us.
Appreciate you, brother.
And a pleasure. Happy Juneteenth to you and yours.
Yes, indeed.
Unless you're
Thank
white.
You, sir.
But can you say that? Never mind. We'll talk about that later.
We figured it out.
It's gonna be weird. It's just always gonna be weird. It's just always gonna be weird. Roy Wood Jr., everybody. He's at Roy Wood Jr. on Twitter. Obviously, I think he's a fantastic comic. Check out his multiple specials. Because if you haven't seen them, you are missing. You're missing out on somebody who's the truth. Who is the truth. Holy shit, Mike, we did it.
That's our show for today. I feel good, man. My heart, it you know, it's full. I haven't got a chance to see if it's warm yet, but it's hella full. Whoa. You know what I mean? The juice is in there. I don't know the temperature of the juice, but the juice is in there.
Oh, okay. Well, I just hope that the juice ain't loose.
Yeah, not yet.
Heart juice. That just doesn't sound right.
That's true.
Well, my goodness, that is it for this week of Call and Response. I'm Baron Vaughn.
I'm Open Mike Eagle, and we want to give a big shout out to Blavity and Funny or Die for hosting these conversations this week. And we're right back at y'all on Monday.
Yes, indeed. Next week, we got a bunch of great guests coming up. For example, we have Matt Cherry, we have Ernie Hudson, and we have Phoebe Robinson on our Monday show. We're going to be talking about Black images in the media and controlling the narrative with these three fantastic people. So stay tuned for that, and we're going to be posting clips, and please share and tell everybody that you know and hate, that you love and hate to watch the show. You know, you're trying to do some shit.
But in the meantime, happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
Raise your gobliette.
This is empty.
Yeah, well, it's all good.
All right,
we figured it out, y'all. See y'all next week.